Well, good morning with the parish. Hopefully, this is finding you all well on this Sunday morning. I don't know quite where the sunshine has gone. It was lovely yesterday. Had the barbecue out going and everything. Woke up this morning and the sunshine has gone away. But thank you to Stephanie for brightening up our day with the service just beforehand. Um, Good to see her and good to be together on a Sunday morning through the medium of Facebook. Hopefully, in the near future, we'll be able to gather again soon. Um, while people come across and join us, I'm just going to read the gospel reading again. Morning, Tammy. Good to see you. So we're in Matthew chapter 13. There's a little bit of a jump around here, but it's basically from verse 24. So Matthew 13 from verse 24 to 30, and then we're skipping to 36 and 43. So he put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from? He answered, An enemy has done this. The slaves said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? But he replied, No, for in gathering the weeds you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest, and at the harvest time I will tell the reapers, Collect the weeds first, and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. Then he left the crowds and went home into the house. And his disciples approached him, saying, Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field. He answered, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so it will be at the end of this age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all evildoers. And they will throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Let anyone with ears listen. Hello, good to see a few of you coming across now. Since moving back to Chelmsford a couple of years back, I've actually ended up with houses that have had fairly substantial gardens, more than I was used to at my parents' house. They had a fairly small, compact garden. But of course, what this has meant for me is that I have had to learn the art of gardening, which is not something that's actually ever come naturally to me at all. I'm not the kind of person you would call green-fingered. I used to moan as a child when my parents said, "We need you to go out and mow the grass." I hated it. Growing flowers, that kind of thing. I tried it once or twice growing up, and it was probably cruelty to flowers or something, because I was just never very, very good at it at all. But when I came back to Chelmsford, in my attempts to learn a bit more about gardening and having to care a bit more for the environment, I tried to grow some herbs in my garden, as I quite liked cooking. And I still do quite like cooking with fresh herbs wherever possible. And some of you may remember this story. I think I used it in a sermon at St Mary's a little while back. But to my horror, after a few weeks, what I thought were sprouts of basil, a herb I very dearly prize for its fragrance, and it just makes every dish better in my opinion. But I thought what was basil turned out to be weeds, and clearly my eye for gardening was yet to arrive at that point. Those who have seen my attempts at gardening may still tell you that my eye for gardening has yet to arrive. I'm still trying. But one thing, and just thinking back over that story, and one thing I remembered thinking in a bit more detail was when the weeds grew. In their infancy, the sprouts, they looked identical in many ways. The weeds and the basil, they looked very, very similar. They were hard to distinguish from the plant that I was actually trying to grow. And it wasn't until they had actually grown until I realized what was in the pot. And then at that point, only then could I go through the process of taking what was bad out. Now, I wouldn't exactly call the end result a time of harvest, but the point rings true sometimes in line with this morning's gospel passage, in that sometimes you do actually need to see what's grown and watch that development period before being able to weed out the bad things. But what I would say is each of those little saplings in the early days, in my eyes, had the potential to grow into something good. And Jesus tells us that he is like a sower scattering seeds. He is eagerly waiting to see the growth that will occur. He's a bit like a farmer tending the land, ensuring that everything is well irrigated, watered, fertile, and ready for that growth. But all of us need to be aware that there is an evil one and that he is scattering seeds. And those seeds will embed themselves in the land in some places. And the one thing you can say, and that I've certainly learned from my gardening experience, is that where there is fertile land and where you put fertile compost in, things will grow. But maybe not always things that we want to grow. And you might ask, why is there evil in the world? And perhaps that's not the easiest question to answer. And in some respects, we're not always given the reason as to why in the Bible and in the ways that everybody would want. And it's probably a question that is going to be debated years after many of us have left planet Earth. And I don't want to sit here and try and have that debate this morning. But what we are told in the passage is that there is an evil one present. The devil is about and he is scattering seeds. It is a real and it is a present thing in our world. In 1 Peter, we are warned that the evil one is prowling around like a lion and that we have to be on our guard. But despite this, despite the evil one being there, we are still called to stand firm and to grow into the beautiful thing that God has intended for this world. We read in this morning's reading from Genesis the story of Jacob and the ladder, that Jacob, his descendants will be scattered around the globe, a bit like the seed, but they are called to grow and be a blessing to the world. But if we are going to be that blessing, we are going to need to learn to grow. And just like plants, we're going to have to root ourselves well and allow ourselves to be tended by God. And we need to be not under any illusions. God is looking over the world that he has made. He is not absent from it. He is not, the famous philosopher Nietzsche tried to say that God was dead. He is not dead. He is very much alive. And he is looking after the world, tending it, and he will root out the things that are not good. That is a promise of God, that he will deal with the evil in the world. And it might be worthwhile, therefore, just once in a while, learning to do some gardening and gardening in our own lives, to check that actually we are growing in the way that God has intended for us to grow. To ask the question, are we producing the kind of fruit that God is wanting to see in our lives? You know, Jesus didn't say that his followers would be known for their big buildings, for their committees, or for their impressive worship conferences, but they would be known by their love for each other. That is the big fruit in our lives. That's how you tell the people of God in and amongst the evil of this world. That's where they are good. That's where we are good. When people see us as the followers of Jesus, for our love. It's not that the other things are necessarily bad things at all. In many respects, we need places to gather. We need committees to run things. And worship conferences can be a time where we gather on a larger scale to be together and meet with God and to know his presence. But as Paul writes in Corinthians, without love, all those things are nothing but a clanging gong. It's empty. We need to know love. That's the big fruit. But also we read, to continue Paul's theme, in Galatians, Paul also writes of the fruit of the Spirit. Are things like gentleness, patience, self-control, all those other things he writes about in Galatians, are they present in our lives? Or have some bad seeds started to take root? We need to do the gardening. We need to look at ourselves once in a while. Because growing is not about being static. We can never just be static as we grow. Growth involves change and transformation. And the danger could be that if we go unchecked, we could be a bit like those weeds in my own gardening experience. We can look very similar at the start, but we could run the risk of growing into something that we were never meant to be. We need to learn to be self-reflective, to look at ourselves. And as the psalmist says, to come to that place where we're happy to say to God, search me and try me. Psalm 139, search me and try me. The great cry of the psalmist to say, look, investigate my life, Lord. See if there is anything in me that I need to do something about. And let's work in partnership. Let's do that gardening together, and let's make me a plant that produces good fruit. It's always much better to be in that place, to do the gardening with God. So this morning, what are you doing to ensure that you are taking root in the good soil? What are you doing to stand firm amongst the evil of this world, growing strong and sure, to be the people of God that is so desperately needed in this world, a people of love? Perhaps do you need a little bit of tending this morning? We can't be unaware and caught off guard. Jacob this morning in this morning's story caught off guard, not realizing that the Lord was present. But the Lord is present. He is watching over us. And it's important to know and realize these things, because the promise of Jacob is one that is still with us for a very good reason. Because the antidote to all the evil in the world at the moment is God working in partnership through his people. And we are called to be God's people, to be that blessing in the world at the moment. And so my encouragement to you this week, the people of God present in Whitford Parish, is to grow, to have a look, do the gardening, grow. Don't shy away from it. Produce good fruit and be a part of the good harvest. Be known in our community as that people of love. That people who are there to be a blessing in our little patch of Chelmsford. That's all from me this week. That is my encouragement to you. I be praying for all of you that you go well this week. Do stick around. Following up in 10 minutes time, we've got quite a reasonable amount of time to go and make a cuppa. But Jess will be with us for the all-age service coming up very, very shortly. So do stick around for that. And then it would be great to see loads of you on the Zoom catch-up at 12 o'clock. And all the details for that are on the Church Talk if you'd like to join us there. Do be there. Hopefully we'll see some of you very, very soon. Also, just a reminder that the church is open on a Monday morning 10 till 12 and a Thursday afternoon from 2 till 4. If you want to come and use the building on either of those times to pray, it'd be great to see some of you there. Bye for now, and God bless.